Hi everyone and welcome to Dates, Weights and Protein Shakes. I'm Lianne and I'm a weightlifter.
I'm James and I'm a powerlifter.
And this is the podcast where we talk shit about lifting, relationships, life and everything in between. So I received an email.
So we shout ourselves.
Yeah. I've just ruined my weightlifting career. Yeah, not good. Not good at all.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Dates, Weights and Protein Shakes podcast. And we have a very intriguing episode for you today concerning a rather important weightlifting governing body and our run-ins with them.
Yeah, it's been a scary week.
And a singular sleepless night, just the one, fortunately. And Lianne's been competing again, so we're going to have a little recap of that too. Yeah. So buckle in and get ready for a thriller of an episode today. So, we have been contacted by our friends at Weightlifting Scotland. Do you want to set the scene, Lianne?
So I received an email last week at some point, I think it was.
It was Wednesday.
Yeah, it was last Wednesday, and I was just going about my day. I had my breakfast, I was doing my work, I'd taken Paddy out for a walk. It was a normal Wednesday morning. Until I got an email from the chair of Weightlifting Scotland as he signed off his email. So, top dog, the big man.
An important man.
Important man. And the premise of the email was I've listened or I've heard about an episode of your podcast where you discuss some feedback from your Scotland competition. Now, if some of you remember that episode, we weren't exactly friendly about the competition or the setup of it or how it was ran. There's a couple of things that we had some negative feedback on.
Yeah, we made some inflammatory comments, I think it would be fair to...
Yeah.
And use some evocative language. And I think a lot of that came about due to your performance at the competition.
Yeah.
In terms of, it didn't go as well as you would have liked it to.
No.
And that was partly because of the organisation. And also, we were in our usual silly, goofy, sarcastic mood. So we were exaggerating for effect, I think is the technical term.
Yes, I do believe that's the professional way to say it. So he'd heard about the podcast somehow, the episode, and he quoted some of the things that we said in there and essentially said, would be good to have a chat with you about this feedback to not only hear more about your experience, but also to explain from a Weightlifting Scotland point of view why certain things are that way.
So we shout ourselves.
Yeah. So I think I did a little scream when I received that email and ran up to James. I was like, oh my God, I've just ruined my weightlifting career. I'm going to be banned from Weightlifting Scotland. That's it. That's
our podcast's going to get taken down.
Yeah. It was all very dramatic.
We were very, very worried.
We were very worried. So, which, to be fair, we're putting our opinions out there on the internet. If you do that, some people are going to listen to it and not like it. So we had expected it, but I guess we hadn't expected, something like that to be the first thing. We hadn't expected
to get to the top.
Yeah, we were at the top,
Yeah.
We've been trying to get in contact with Weightlifting Scotland for a while. Should have been grateful for the opportunity at that point, really, just to speak to someone from the organisation. So, but no, we were pretty worried at that point.
But at the same time, everything we had said was our opinion and was backed up by fact. And also in the back of our minds, there was also this possibility that maybe they seriously wanted feedback from us.
Yeah.
And they wanted to hear what we had to say.
Yeah.
And we went, okay, well, look, let's reply to the email and let's be nice. Let's not be like, well, what shit? Let's be like, oh, thanks for reaching out. We'd be more than happy to discuss our feedback from the competition.
Yeah.
when works for you for a chat.
Yeah.
And
so it was fun. So we set up a time for the next day. I mean, we were never going to... James and I are very non-confrontational people.
Yeah.
We're never going to go in, like, guns blazing, balls out, let's have a fight.
But we'd also kind of had to mentally prepare for a fight.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like two raccoons just backed into a corner and you just get a little bit scrappy and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I kind of... You know, I don't want to, but I'm going to scratch if I need to get over this.
And we'd got some sheets of paper ready. We'd written down everything that we'd said on the podcast and why we'd said it, how it can maybe be improved. And we were ready to either frame it as, okay, here's some nice feedback, or, well, this is why we said it was shit. And so we joined the call.
Yeah, joined the call.
It was a hot day, but we were sweating even more than usual.
Yeah.
And the Chair of Scotland joins the call.
Yeah, he's on there. And the most lovely man just pops up. And we just had a nice conversation.
and genuinely shared our feedback.
It was so good. So, Chair of Weightlifting Scotland is an absolute legend.
Yeah, top guy.
I'd say... How it went was he essentially explained how he'd come into this role. So he's pretty new into being the chair of Weightlifting Scotland. I think he's been there for about 9 months or so. And he went through the fact that there are, you know, as with any organisation, were some issues that were kind of evident when he first arrived. And he is there to try and make it a better place. And we had a really brilliant conversation. I think we're talking for 45 minutes. He explained some of the reasons why, you know, certain things were happening the way they were happening, how they'd actually already been improved in some aspects that we, from our perspective of going to other competitions, may have seen them as more kind of negative things. There were things that had been improved even from before he had joined that, you know, whilst they maybe still weren't where they wanted to get to, they were still not a better position than they were. So, yeah, and he was genuinely interested in understanding how we thought it could be made better and what our experiences were in other competitions. And at one point, I think he said, you know, a big part of his role is he wants to have these conversations with athletes and he doesn't get the opportunity very often.
Yeah.
And the fact that this had come up, he wanted to reach out to actually engage and to say, you know, we want to get better, so this is how you can help us to get better. So yeah, it was just a great conversation and he's an absolute legend.
I think the thing he said at the top of the call was, if you guys are saying this, other people are definitely thinking it, so we need to have a conversation about it.
Yes, and he was very honest about the fact that they'd already received feedback about some of the points that we'd made from other athletes. So it's obviously not just we're coming in and kind of saying all this shit and it's, you know, just for the sake of a podcast. Like, we actually did experience that and there were negatives about it. There were positives about it, but I think the negatives were such that, you know, it ultimately would affect me and other athletes who are competing on the day.
And I think he has such a positive and refreshing mindset.
Yeah.
In terms of when he's put a lot of time and effort into running that competition.
Absolutely.
And there's lots of volunteers who've signed up to help out and put their time in and not really received anything in return.
No.
It's quite easy to be like, oh, these guys are slacking off all my hard work. They're dickheads. I want to have a go at them.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what most people would do in that scenario and why we were so worried.
Yeah.
So him being like, oh, actually, they're making some quite valid points here. Let's have a discussion to improve the experience for athletes is so good for Weightlifting Scotland.
Oh my God, yeah.
And super positive. And it's so pleasing to see someone like that in control of the organisation.
Yeah. I genuinely do think he's going to make such a difference there. I think another point to say is that no one in Weightlifting Scotland is a salaried employee. They're all volunteers. No one's getting paid for anything they do in that. Whereas in British weightlifting, which is kind of the parent organisation, there are salaried people. That is their full-time job. So I think that was really important for us to know as well and to hopefully share with people who might be competing in Weightlifting Scotland competitions, is that is completely run by volunteers. And I think that's, you know, the fact that they're doing that on the side of their job, full-time job, or whatever they're doing is, you know, amazing, and it needs to kind of be celebrated, I think, as well, definitely.
Absolutely. And there's already been positive ramifications from this. So I think one of our big gripes, fair to say gripe, was just information and transparency around the schedule and running of the competition.
Yeah.
So receiving information beforehand, when weigh-in's going to be, and when you can be expecting to lift after the weigh-in.
Yeah.
And I think within 2 hours of our conversation, Weightlifting Scotland had put up an Instagram story saying, here's when weigh-ins are.
For the next competition.
Here's the earliest you can expect to be lifting. Allow an hour and a half.
An hour to an hour and a half for each group,
Which is 10 times more information than you had for your competition.
Yeah.
So they're listening and they're putting it into effect, which is awesome, I think.
It's just all very mature. I was very impressed. I mean, I feel like it's, it was maybe sad that we'd expected anything different, but you just don't know, do you? I mean, when you're talking crap about someone's interest or something that they've put their time into and effort into, then you just don't know how it's going to go. But I think it was a really constructive conversation, and Chair of Weightlifting Scotland's an absolute legend, so shout out.
I think this is just such a positive good news story that we wanted to share with you guys to let us know, we're not just sitting here talking shit, we're actually making a difference. But actually it's really Weightlifting Scotland who are making the biggest difference.
We somehow, got into the hot seat with that. And I feel like, in a good way, like, I think it's pretty cool that we've actually made an impact in some way.
Yeah.
When I'm around talking about how much things are shit shows and there's fuckery going on.
They're direct quotes from what Lianne said.
Direct quotes, yeah. We listened to it back and Yeah,
it's a bit cringy listening back, knowing who was listening to it.
But there are opinions, so that's, that's why you do a podcast, right? Just to talk about your opinions. So.
And I don't want to say more importantly, but as importantly, the chair also confirmed that Lianne is now on the Weightlifting Scotland rankings and is recognised as a Scottish athlete, which I think has been a conquest of ours since we started the podcast in September, was to ensure that happened.
I mean, if we think about it, probably the reason we started this podcast was just to get noticed. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good news all round.
Good news all round.
Speaking of competitions, Lianne, I understand you have been competing again.
I've done too many competitions.
Is it 3 in 3 months now?
I think it's 3 in 2 months.
Would you describe that perhaps as suboptimal?
I that's difficult to answer. I think in terms of social life and mental health, yes, suboptimal. But in terms of competition results, very much optimal.
Ah, well, that's what I wanted to talk about. The numbers of mental health, physical health, so shit. I wanted to talk about the numbers.
I'm a broken person, but I've got some PBs.
And I like that I'm sitting up here on my high horse.
Yeah.
As if I didn't do exactly the same thing last summer.
Yeah, so, we're all learning. We're all learning.
It's good experience. It's learning to compete.
It's
as a psychology Ian would say.
Yeah.
But I want to know. The viewers and listeners want to know.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Pretty good.
Oh, cool. Good segment.
So, PBs all round. PB in snatch, PB in clean and jerk, PB in total.
I think the summary of this competition for me is that it's the culmination of everything we, both of us, but mainly you, have learned from the previous 2 competitions this year.
I agree.
And there were a lot of things that we can pick up on as we go through that we put into practice.
Yeah.
And then you as an athlete delivered on the platform that led to you getting those PBs.
Yeah.
And I said afterwards, and I was kind of worried about how to phrase this, so I'm going to try and say it the way I said it beforehand.
Yeah.
There's sometimes when you compete and you get a number, and that is 100% the best number you could get on that day, but you don't think it's the absolute best you could do given
like representative of you,
given entirely optimal conditions. It's like once in a blue moon.
I
think that competition there, when you got your PB snatch, PB clean and jerk, I was like, yeah, that is the best Lianne can do right now.
Yeah.
Which is like the perfect competition you can have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's because you had those maybe less positive experiences beforehand that
100%.
led to that.
Absolutely. And I think looking back on especially the Scotland competition, I feel so much more positively about that because of what it led to with this final competition. And I really feel like I was on a spiritual journey throughout those first two competitions to get to that point.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess outcome for that day was I got all three of my snatches, which I'm so happy about because we all know snatch was a little bit scary.
Have you ever done that before?
I think in like my first two competitions.
Yeah, but they were power snatches, they don't count.
That's really funny you say that, James, because I powered all of my snatches.
I thought there was the powers you did at this competition, and then there was how you used to power it, which was essentially
like a muscle snatch.
Yeah, muscle snatching.
Literally just stood up with the bar. Yeah, so outcomes were I got all three of my snatches. Snatches were 70 kilograms, 75 kilograms, and then 80 kilograms. So 80 kilograms is a 2 kilo PB. And I did pretty much power it. It might have just been below parallel, but you know, it wasn't a full snatch. Which I at this point I don't care if I'm powering them because I'm getting them up. I think that's like my ultimate thought process around that. Then clean and jerks, timing was a little bit off going into the first one, which was my fault. So I missed my first clean jerk at 94 kilograms, got it on the second, and then my third attempt was 98 kilograms, which I got for a 1 kilo PB. And so my total was 178 kilograms, which is 7 kilos better than my previous best total.
10 kilos more than you got in... No, 12.
9 kilos more than I got in my previous competition.
No, but in the Scotland one.
Yes, 12 more than I got in the Scottish one. So it's been progress over those three competitions, which is just ideal.
So let's dig into each of those kind of lifts and what led up to them.
Yeah.
So this was the Lakeside Summer Showdown. What's this called?
Never-ending summer?
That's
Endless summer. Endless summer, that's it.
Lakeside.
I like Summer Showdown though.
So Lakeside Summer Showdown. So it's at Lakeside, at the home gym, which we always like.
Yeah.
It's 27, 28 degrees.
It's fucking hot.
It's a hot day.
Yeah, it's bad.
And your group is the last group of the day.
Yes, it is.
You've been TOing, doing the desk all day.
Yeah.
I've been loading in my little shorts.
Yeah. Pegs out.
And you're the last group.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling going into that warm up for the snatch?
Yeah, not good. Not good at all. I was so tired. I think I was on the verge of like feeling a little bit of sunstroke. I was not feeling good at all. I was just exhausted. I don't do well in the heat anyway, so...
Scottish.
Yeah, the Scottish blood doesn't allow for anything past 20 degrees, really. And yeah, I was just really tired. There was a point where I genuinely thought I might just not compete. Like, I might just pull out because I'm really not feeling good.
I would not allow it.
Yeah. I wouldn't allow myself to do it, but the thought was
there. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and so when I was going into warm up, I was like, right, I need to hype myself up. I need to get in the zone. I need to get over this tiredness. And it was a different environment from last time. It was a lot kind of quieter and calmer in the back room. There was some different people there. So the vibe was a lot more relaxed, which was... I think it was quite nice, but also maybe some chaoticness would have been good just to get me kind of into the...
Just get the blood pumping. Sometimes you need a little bit of chaos.
Yeah.
To just get you a little bit off axis.
Jazz it up a bit. So I can't really remember. I was just kind of doing my thing. I was warming up. I wasn't thinking about it too much. We had decided before doing this competition that I was going to do my first snatch in the back room, because previously I have been doing a couple of kilos off that because I guess it's a personal choice for the athlete, but the more you do in the back room, the bigger opportunity that you might be too tired when you go out into the platform to actually do the lift. But we knew that I could do 70 easily in any training day, basically.
So you've done what, like a 72 double before?
Yeah.
And I get Connor, our friend Connor, used to do this, and I used to rib him a little bit for it. Like, Connor, that's such a waste of energy. He's like, no, I need to do it.
Yeah.
So I know I could do it out on the platform.
Yeah.
And when he first said that, I did not get it. I was like, Connor, that's fucking weird, mate. And then you did 70 in the back room.
Yeah.
In Scotland. Went out to do 72.
Yeah.
Miss. Got it by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah.
And then for the next competition, we went, right, 72 obviously isn't a good opener for you. Let's do 70 to make sure it's really, really easy. You've got this beltless.
Yeah.
And then you go out at the Easter Spectacular or whatever it was called. The competition, the second competition you did this year. And you missed 70.
Yeah.
And I remember me and Lizzie looking at each other, what is going on?
It's all mental.
Yeah.
It's completely mental, and as in, like, it's in my head.
And I think it then makes the rest of the competition a bit of an uphill struggle.
Yes, yeah, because you're put on the back foot instantly.
And you don't actually get to ever do that final snatch that you should be capable of. You're only really giving yourself 2 snatches.
Exactly.
So you're never going to get that maximal snatch.
Exactly, yeah.
So we said, why do we do that weird thing Connor does?
Yeah.
And
it was your suggestion, yeah.
Do 70 in the back room.
Yeah.
And then you've got it.
Yeah.
And you're like definitely going to get it on the platform.
It's the confidence for me, and I think it's having just done it. There's no doubt in my mind to say I can do that again. So did it in the back room. Was a lovely snatch. Went out on the platform and powered it.
but you got it. You got that first snatch.
I got
you're
my first
up and
snatch.
running, and you're going to get 2 attempts. So one to get something that's trying, difficult, and then one to really go for something.
Yeah.
And I think it's that word doubt you said there is the key thing. For me, when I'm going out to compete, if there's a doubt in my mind, it makes that lift so much harder.
Exactly. And I think with weightlifting, you can't just grind through it all the time. There's so many more variables that come into play, and how your body reacts will be a direct result of what you're thinking in your head. So yeah, I think the other thing that I did differently for this competition was I've been really focusing on routines, and that, again, from a mental aspect, has just been, really, really helpful, because I think, 9 times out of 10, if I'm missing a lift, it's because of my head. So I had a routine in my head for what I was going to do exactly when I was snatching. So that's all I was thinking about when I was out there. And so I did the 70, that went really well, came back. I think her plan was to go to 74. Was it me who said I want to go to 75?
It was Lizzie.
Yeah, it was Lizzie.
Yeah, so right, I think this is the other bit. There's 2 kind of other variables here that I think were quite positive as well, which is, yes, you were tired.
Yeah.
But it meant you didn't have all this nervous energy
I was
that
super
you've had
calm.
before.
Yeah.
You were super calm.
Yeah.
And your warm-ups were the best warm-ups I'd seen you do over the last 2-3 months.
Yeah.
And I think you were doing all those lifts, and I said, don't change anything.
Yeah.
Because you were just getting them so cleanly.
Yeah.
And I know you said you were tired.
Yeah.
You managed to hype yourself up, but to a really... For you,
good
where you're quite a calm lifter, to a really, really good level.
Yeah.
And I think Lizzie being there definitely helped that.
Yeah,
she's
it
very calming on you.
And I think she is. And I think that because having you there is really important to me. And I think, we've become, over the past 3 competitions, we have really worked well as a team, as we always do, but as we figured out what each other needed.
Out.
But having Lizzie there from a weightlifting point of view, because we might have spoken about this before, but I have a hard time trusting, sometimes if you give me
the feedback,
it's not because I don't trust you as a lifter, but it's that weightlifting side of things that
Lizzie has a lot of knowledge, and she's going to say the right thing.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes I don't say anything, which is perhaps not very helpful, because I just don't know what to say.
Well, no, it's not. But is so much to ask of you as someone who isn't a coach and who doesn't do weightlifting. Like that's just, that's...
My job is look at the board, tell you how long it is, and then because Lianne doesn't trust me, start a timer on my watch so she knows that she's had enough rest.
I do trust you.
So that you do your lifts every kind of 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. So it was really, really good to have Lizzie there. So
it might have been Lizzie who just said the next one.
Lizzie did the next one. I think I said 75. So our plan was 70, 74, 78. I was just feeling good. So I was like, I want to go to 75. Or it might have been Lizzie. I actually can't remember.
That one, I think there was a general group consensus that you'd warmed up really well.
Yeah.
That was a power, but it was, you really got a nice pull.
It was a nice
lift. You just didn't need to sit down.
No. Yeah.
So you did 75s on the thing.
75s on the bar. I do exactly the same. All I'm thinking about is my routine, and it goes up nicely.
Power.
I do a power.
Lianne comes to the back room. I think you're following yourself again.
Yeah, so I followed myself the entire time. So I've got 2 minutes rest between each of these lifts. I then say 78. Let's go for 78. It mentally in my head, I'm like, I know I can do this. This is something I've done before. I hadn't done anything past 74 kilograms in about 6 months. So I think that was also in the back of my head.
I think you did 78 at crazy strength.
Yeah, that was 6 months ago.
So it was that was like November.
Yeah.
And Lizzie pretty much says, no, you're doing 80.
Yeah, she was like, you're doing 80.
It broaches no argument.
Yeah.
And Lizzie says, you're doing 80 and you're going to sit down.
Yeah.
Because she's basically saying, it's too light for you.
Yeah.
It's not pushing you into that bottom position.
Yeah.
You're going to do 80 and you're going to sit down.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, fine.
You've got to trust the coach.
Yeah.
Lizzie knows her shit.
Yeah.
So, fine.
80. I
say 80, please, Jay, darling. Jay's doing the desk. And Jay goes, 80! And we go, yes, 80.
So at this point, I am like the calmest I've ever been. And the thought processes that are going through my head are, don't do anything different. Stick to the routine that you're doing because it's working. Do everything exactly the same. The other thing that I'm thinking of is, I before the competition, I was thinking about how I approach lifts and how I think of them kind of mentally. And in my head, I was thinking, the number doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the number is that I'm lifting. I am lifting an amount of weight. And that's, I shouldn't even be thinking about the amount of weight that I'm lifting. It should be the same no matter what. And I think that really gave me the confidence. Because I think if beforehand, someone put 80 on a bar to snatch it, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, 80? Like,
it's a good clean and jerk at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I couldn't even clean and jerk that. So I'm stopping putting those mental barriers on myself, because what is the point? Like, why would I do that to myself? If I can physically do it, then why am I even thinking about the number? It shouldn't be a consideration.
And I think that's something that's really important for both of us.
Yeah.
I think previously we said, I need to do this before I do a heavyweight, or I need to do that before a heavyweight.
Yeah.
And it makes it this event.
Yeah.
And then you stop doing all those really good things you do when you do a good lift at maybe a lower weight, like setting yourself properly, taking your time, making sure you go through the motions. But
Exactly.
don't change anything.
No.
It's exactly the same. The exact same technique's going to get you to the same place.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really healthy and really positive way to approach the lift.
So, yeah. So I go out. All I'm thinking of is my cues, my routine, and I power it. For the third time.
And you look at Jay on the desk.
So all I remember was like powering it and standing it up, and just it felt light. It didn't feel heavy. I didn't feel like, oh God, that was a hard lift. It just felt like a snatch.
But that's because you did all the right things, right?
Exactly.
Because you didn't change anything. You pushed with the centre of the foot. You completed the pull. You were looking up.
Yeah.
And when you do all those right things, you're using your body optimally.
Yeah.
And it should feel right.
Exactly. So I was just standing up, and it felt like half a minute where I was just standing there staring at Jay like, did I just do that? Like, is that, I didn't even hear the down signal. I just was like, what the fuck? Threw it down. I was just, I don't think I fully appreciated what I'd just done until like the next day.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was just like, that was such an awesome moment.
Yeah, and
I was just like,
yelled,
how
"You're
did I
sick
do that?
at weightlifting."
Yeah. It was like a really, really cool moment.
Yeah, and we all lost our shit. It was good fun.
I think from Lizzie's point of view, she thought 80 was going to push me to the floor. I think it didn't because my legs were so wide, because that's like the position that I just go into. It's like width as opposed to depth. And yeah, I think it was just, happy vibes all around.
It just means there's more in there, which I definitely think there is.
There is, yeah, 100% there is. So I'm coming for that.
And yeah,
85.
I think that's such a win for you, going from 72 to 80. It's 10% increase in 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's not a strength thing. There's no way that is a strength
Yeah.
thing. It is a approach, learning to compete and delivering at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's taking that kind of calmness routine that we've learned over the other two, plus the doing the 70 first in the back room to give you those 3 lifts.
Exactly.
And also not changing anything and doing that really good routine means you can deliver.
Absolutely.
So that was super positive. We're on a bit of a high then, but it's still like 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And you've got to go for the clean and jerk.
Yeah.
And Liz kind of says, right, do fewer warm-ups, basically.
Yeah, it's too hot to do.
You don't need to do 15 lifts, which you'd maybe do beforehand.
So yeah, start warming up. We make sure I'm having enough rest in between. It gets to the point where it's getting close to my lift, and I think I'm doing maybe 92 as my final lift before I go out, because my first attempt is 94.
And this is huge as well. If you remember, did you open at 90 in Scotland?
90, yeah.
Yeah, and you're opening at 94, which was your final lift in Scotland.
Yeah.
So once again, there's a huge increase there.
Yeah. So I do... basically, for clean and jerk, my key thing is that I'm not out of breath by the time that I'm going out to lift my first attempt, because I get really stressed about timings, and clean and jerk is 2 movements, so you're more likely to get tired from doing it. So I'd rather do it earlier and have an extra couple of minutes before going out than do it and then have 3 minutes and have to go out.
Yeah. So we normally time it. So Lianne has 4 minutes.
Yeah.
As close as we can allow.
Yeah.
Between your last warm up.
Yeah.
And your first one on the platform.
Yeah.
And you said to me, I want 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said, fine.
Yeah.
I understood why Lianne wanted that.
Yeah.
What I didn't anticipate was the person before you missing their lift.
Yeah. And
then taking the full 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah.
So what I thought was going to be 2 minutes, 2 lifts, became 4.
Yeah.
And became Lianne not doing anything for about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And we did do a heavy pull.
Yeah.
But it's just a heavy pull. It's not a clean and jerk.
Yeah, and I just turned off a little bit by the time that I went out to do my first lift.
And I think that's the only mistake we made the whole day.
I agree.
And I think the learning from that is allow 4. If it's 6, good.
Yeah.
If it's 4 is fine.
Yeah, exactly. So I go out to my first lift, and I'm feeling the tiredness at that point. So I do the pull, get it on my shoulders, and I just haven't extended enough, and it's forward, and I just drop it. So that's really annoying, because usually my cleans they've been fine for the past year. You know, that's not something I usually fail on.
And I think that was the other frustrating thing is in your warm-up, you said the thing I want to focus on being really smooth, because sometimes you can pull it too heavily and it lands on the shoulders and it just kind of crashes down.
Yeah.
And you were doing it so smoothly in the back room. Once again, the warm-up was smashing.
Yeah, I mean, I think my warm-ups are always good. I think they always feel all right. But yeah, but it wasn't... I guess the panic came out a little bit, but it wasn't like I wasn't anywhere near as bad as I was when I was in Scotland or anything. I knew like it's fine. I have a lot more faith in myself with clean and jerks than I do snatches. I think there was maybe a fleeting moment where I was kind of like, have we opened too heavy and been a bit too aggressive? But I was like, away. That's not the type of thought that we need to be having
No.
right now. Let's just go out and get it done. So I go out for my second attempt. Clean, fine. Jerk, fine.
Yeah,
That's all good.
as it should be.
As it should be. I've got this routine for my jerk, which works really well. Maybe I should get one for my clean, actually, since I've got one for my snatch now. I think another point to mention is that I've changed, within the past 3 weeks maybe, or month, changed my jerk leg.
Oh yeah, this is ridiculous. How have we not talked about this? Is utterly insane that you've done this.
Yeah, it's not
like
really normal.
insane in a good way.
So for the past 3 years, I've been jerking on with my left leg forward, my right leg back. My right leg is the one that I've injured. I've got patella tendonitis in my knee, and it was really affecting my ability to jerk. So I was like, I'm going to change my jerk leg and I'm going to put my right leg forward and my left leg back. Now, this is typically quite unusual because you're training that way to jerk for every time you jerk. It's quite rare that you'd switch legs and do stuff on another leg, even in training.
And most humans have a dominant leg, like a strongly dominant leg. Like if you've ever played football or any sport, one leg works a lot better than the other one.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same for jerking.
Yeah.
I've seen you change legs before because Lizzie's made you.
Yeah.
And you've gone, oh, it's not really any different.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate how little difference there is between
it literally
the two legs.
doesn't. I could do either leg now. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And I think that's because of my gymnastics background and the fact that they would make us do things on both sides. So I think I'm strong on both sides of it. So I changed that a couple of weeks ago, and then within a week I got a clean and jerk PB within a complex. And I was just feeling so much more confident about my jerks, which had been such a massive mental barrier for me.
I think that mental barrier comes about that you just haven't trusted
my leg.
your leg.
Oh yeah. It hurt every single time I did a jerk. So if something hurts, your body wants to fight against it, and I wasn't doing it properly. So feeling really confident in my jerks. So I did 94 and I came off, and the plan was to do 97 and then 100 if I'd gotten to that final one, because who doesn't want to try 100? So
and
I
you cleaned 100.
I had cleaned 100, yeah. So I came out and I said 97. I want to do 97. Let's just get that done and get like a bigger total. And Lizzie said, no, let's do 98. And then that's at that point I was like, no, I want to do 97. I know I can do 97, so let's just do it. And then she said something to me which was like really kind of did something in my brain, and she was like, well, don't you want it? Don't you want 98? And I was like, yeah, I do want 98. Like, why would I not?
I think 97 is a bit of a bogey number in your head as well, because it's what you've dropped behind as well.
Exactly,
and I think
yeah.
you kind of wanted to prove you could do 97.
Yeah, on the platform.
And but then Lizzie was like, no, you want 98.
Yeah.
That's what you really want.
It's when she was like, don't you want it? And I think I was like, and I think that kind of fire has come out a lot more recently, and it's like I want to progress, I feel like I can progress, and I really feel like I've made such strides recently over the past month or two on the mental side of it, which I think was the point that was holding me back from lifting in general, or within lifting in general. And I was like, yeah, I do fucking want it. Like, let's do it. Let's see what can happen. So we put 98 on, and I did it. The jerk felt strong and stable. The clean was fine. It just all went according to plan, and I was just so happy.
No, even close to a press out. It was your arms were strong. Yeah, it was good. It was really good, and I felt like that 98 was a really good representation of, where you were on the day. Yeah. I think 100 definitely would have been. I do think I would have gotten 100. That I do feel like I could have done it on that day, but that's the way it is. If my grandmother had a wheel, should have been a bike.
Exactly, and the thing is, if we'd gone from 94, if we did stuck to the plan, did 94, 97, 100. If I'd gotten that 97 and for some reason I didn't get that 100, then I would have gone with 1 kilo less.
If you'd done 94, 97, you might have been too tired for the 100, and then I think 94, 100 would have been too big a jump.
Yeah. So I mean, really no regrets on that day. That was just, it was such a good competition, and I was really, really happy with the outcome. And I felt, I felt like I'd proven to myself that I can keep going and I can keep progressing, and this just this is just part of the journey, which was really nice, I think, as well.
Ready to go again in 6 weeks at the Lakeside Weekender? I got the name of that one right this time. It's a Lakeside Weekender.
Yeah. I do need to do more outside of Lakeside, I think. I think I'm probably not pushing myself enough by doing them at the home gym, but I think it's good practice nonetheless, and we'll hopefully be able to do some more in the next kind of couple of months. I'm really enjoying competing at the moment. So
it's nice because competing is really the part that you're supposed to work towards and enjoy.
Yeah.
So enjoying that is good.
Yeah, it's been great.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of Dates, Weights and Protein Shakes. As always, we hope you did enjoy. A little bit of a different one today, a little bit more serious.
Yeah, and I hope you are enjoying the video format for those of you who are watching on YouTube. We thought that it's a bit more fun, isn't it, for you to see our faces when we're talking. So we'll be doing this going forward. And you can both listen to us on podcast platforms or you can watch us. So you've got a choice.
Yeah, on YouTube, we are Dates, Weights and Protein Shakes. If you want to reach out and get in touch, we're on Instagram at Dates, Weights and Protein Shakes.
We've also got a website, which is datesweightsandproteinshakes.com. On there, you can see all of our episodes that we have released, and you can also submit any questions or thoughts or feedback to us through our form.
And if you do like the podcast, please remember to subscribe and turn notifications on, both on YouTube or on any good podcast platforms such as Spotify, Deezer, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts or TuneIn.
And until next time, may all your squats be deep
and your spines be neutral.